Hey guys, Mr. Bowman here. Today's learning objective is in green and we are learning to round numbers. And what round means, it's a way that we in maths we make our numbers shorter because sometimes we're a bit lazy and shorter numbers are often easier to deal with. So we're looking at how to shorten or round numbers. Let's have a look. So the first step when you're approaching any kind of question is you need to identify your target number. And that number is often given to you or told to you in the question. So identify target number. So let's have a look at these pink questions. We've got 3 of them. And we've been asked, can we round these to the nearest tenths? So we just need to think about the place value of a tenth. So a tenth as a fraction would be 1 over 10. And hopefully you recall a tenth as a decimal would be 0.1. So that means the first number after the decimal point is our target number, the number that we are choosing to round. All right, so let's have a look at the first example. We've got 0.4214, and just looking at that number, I know that number sits between 0.4 and 0.5. And we've now got to decide, are we going to round that number down and lose the 4.12 part? Or are we going to round that number up to 0.5? So we need to figure out which number is 0.1214 closer to, 0.4 or 0.5. So to help with this, I often write a number list down. I'm going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then 6, 7, 8, 9. So these are the numbers that could come up in any of these spots. So we've identified 4 as the target number. After that, we now need to look at the next number. Look at next number. And that'll let us figure out, is it closer to 0.4 or is it closer to 0.5? So we can look at the next number. In our case, that's 2. And we can see that 2 is in the first group of numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And all of those numbers, they would be closer to 0.4 than they would be to 0.5. So for those numbers there, we are looking to round down. So we're going to go 0.4 as our answer. So we're going to get rid of the 2, the 1, and the 4. Okay, our next question, 0.3779. Well, let's think about the number. That sits between 0.4 and 0.4 and 0.3, somewhere between those two. And we need to figure out, are we going to round that down or are we going to round it up? So our target number, we're still looking at the tenths, which is our 3, and we're going to use the next number, the 7, as a reference to help us decide. And this time around, the 7 isn't in that first group of numbers. It actually sits in the second group of numbers. And for those numbers, we are always looking to round up. So that means 0.3749, that is closer to 0.4 than it is to 0.3. So we're going to round that up to 0.4. And our last question for the tenths, 7.124. So step 1, let's identify the target number, which is going to be the number 1. Let's have a look at the next number. That's a 2. So that 2 means we're going to round it down. And that means we can ignore the 2 and the 4, and we're going to leave it as 7.1. So hopefully the 3 examples, we know how to round tenths. Let's have a look at whole numbers. Whole numbers are a similar approach or process, but we just need to change what our target number is based on the question. So a whole number, for me, a whole number is something like 1, 2, 3, 4. And as a placeholder or place value, they are the ones. So like we identified the tenths before, we need to identify all the ones, and then we need to look at the number after that and round accordingly. So our first number, 42.413. Let's identify the ones place. So in our case, that's the 2, 42. And we're going to look at the number after that. And we've got a 4 there. So we can see that number it does fall between 42 and 43. So we want to figure out, are we going to round down to 43 or we're going to round up? And we're going to use the 4 as an example, and we can see the 4, well, the 4 is closer to 42 than it is to 43. So that means we're going to have to round down to 42. And the last whole number example, 7.941. So we need to identify our target number, and we're still dealing with whole numbers or ones, so 7 is our target number. We're going to look at the number before, which is 9. And we're going to make a decision, are we going to round down to 7 or up to 8? And we can see that 9, that is in the rounding up group of numbers. So that means that number is closer to 8 than it is to 7. So we're going to round that number up to 8. And the last group of questions we're going to want to look at is, it says 2DP. And I'm just going to explain what that means. So 2DP, it means 2 numbers after the decimal point. So 2 numbers after decimal point. And I'll explain what that means, and I'll use some other examples as well. So we've got a first question, 0.746149. So that's 7. That would be the 1 decimal point number, because it's 1 place after the decimal point. That 4, that's going to be 2 decimal points after the 3, or that's going to, the 6, that's going to be 3 decimal points. That 1, that's 4 decimal points. The 4 is 5 decimal points, and that 9 would be 6 decimal points. And if you have a look at the example below that, 21.2113, the 2, well, that would be an example of the first decimal point. The 1 would be the second decimal point, and then we've got another 1 and another 3. So the 2 would be 1 dp, that 1 would be 2 dp, the next 1 would be 3 dp, and the final 3 would be 4 dp. So let's have a look at our example. So we're looking for 2 dp, so we're going to find the decimal point, and we're looking for the second number after that, 1, 2, which makes our 4. So that's our target number. We're now going to look at the number after the 4, and we need to decide, are we going to keep it at 0.74, or are we going to round up to 0.75? And in our case, that's 6. That's in the round up group of numbers, which means we're going to round up to 0.75. And that means that number is closer to 0.5 than it is to 0.74. And the final number we're going to round today is 21.2113. We're going to look at our decimal point, and we're going to find the second number after that, 1, 2. So that first 1 is going to be what we're rounding to. And that means, are we going to keep it at 21.21, or are we going to round to 21.22? And we're going to look at the next number to decide that. Well, that 1 is in the down list. So that means it's closer to 21.21 than it is to 21.22. And that means we're going to round down and keep it at 21.21. And just the note for the experts amongst us, if you're making a rounding, it is sometimes good to state in brackets what you rounded it to. And in our case, that last example, we've rounded it to 2 decimal points. Hopefully you found this video on rounding useful. Now let's get into heaps of practice.